Hello, hallo und guten Tag to everyone present here today in the beautiful Ghoshray University. Essentially, we've come back to the birthplace of critical theory, so it's a beautiful day. My presentation and soon paper focuses upon racket theory and its utilization as a tool of exclusion, tool of persecution, its usage to essentially push forward the destruction of humanity. Um, as I explore the ways in which racket theory is used as a tool of neoliberalistic control, I will examine racket theory through the lens of Marcuse's one-dimensional man. I want to just quickly extend my thanks to the audience of professors, speakers, writers. All of us are involved and interested into the continuation of the Frankfurt School of Philosophy, critical theory, and specifically, of course, the work of Herbert Marcuse. Erlitz danke und all. I wish to specifically extend my thanks to the organizers, vielen Danke, Herr Jensen und Frau Angel. So this is the critical theory in motion. This is the critical theory in motion. That is the theme of our conference, and that is what we are participating in. Us being here and participating here today is proof that it is very much alive. So what brings us here today? We seek to make sense of the confluence of forces that bring about our current situation, placing us at the mercy of racket theory. What are these forces? Government, industrial complex, it's a nexus, the domination of technology over all of our lives. It's inescapable. And consumerism, overpowering basic reasoning and irrationality. This does re-invite re-examination. So racket theory arises from the exchanges between Adorno and Horkheimer. Further, Horkheimer mentions in The End of Reason, social domination works as a form of gangster rule. That is that mafioso, that is that mafia. And that's extended now in a postmodern lens. It's simply not restricted to perhaps a tribalistic sense, a barbarian sense, as was spoken about yesterday, but it extends, yes, to the Silicon Valley. It extends to corporate America. It extends to something that affects me personally, the admission process in America, to go to college, to university, every single form that an individual may use to progress in life, it is a racket. Everything is controlled by these forces, and your proximity to it decides how successful you may be, how well you will survive. Now, let us talk a little further. And yes, while Marcuse never specifically mentioned racket theory, he poked holes in the total domination theory, and he gave us a lens through which we can understand racket theory. He is that extension. He continues on from the work of Horkheimer and Adorno. Further, Kirchheimer in The Quest of Sovereignty, rackets are a lens to understand the monopoly that we are existing in, monopoly capitalism. Now, yes, interacting forces that bring us here. So it is essentially a progression, right? Technology, the extreme expansion of technology has led to a loss of rationality. We are so focused in the trends, in the things we have learned from technology, that we lose basic reason. And that reason has allowed us to become uber focused on consumerism. There's a fear of missing out, right? We want to be participatory in everything that we see, whether it's the purchase of a new car, a new clothing, something. We don't want to miss out. And that psychology, that basic human desire to be a part of something, has been exploited by every company you can imagine. It has become a tool for forcing us to continue to be uber consumers. And a side effect of that is that we have also lost all sorts of privacy. An interesting thing I realized as I came to Germany, I feel, it seems, privacy may be a little bit better in the sense every time I use a website, every time I go somewhere, I get a notification you've probably seen, asking me about my feelings on this. And that's very considerate because that's not there in America. You just go wherever and you've given it up already. So of course it exists in Europe. Of course it exists in Germany. It exists everywhere. However, I think America, the loss of privacy has been even more accelerated. But it's everywhere. I mean, we have all given up ourselves. everything is gone. So privacy has been sacrificed as a side effect of the consumerism that is upon us. And I think a very pertinent thing is the connections that Racket has with AI. I don't think there can ever be, at least in the current sense, a better example of the one-dimensional man losing his rationality than AI. AI is what? A conglomeration of fragments, bits and pieces taken from every media out there, every writing out there, and it provides us with some product, some prompt. From a prompt, you get a response, right? So unfortunately, though, AI has already and will continue to, it's still fresh. While AI has been theorized, spoken about by scientists for, since the 40s, its prevalence in our lives has only come to now. Now we know about it. And its effects, I mean, we are losing jobs and we are losing our ability to think. Something, as I was planning to come here, I was getting AI bots asking me if they want to plan my travel itinerary. So I don't have to think anymore, right? I don't have to consider where I want to go, plan along. I'll let the AI do it. This has been an issue with every form of industrialization, whether it was the classical sense that we are all familiar with. There are individuals that are left out. Industrialization happens. Corporates get more powerful, more pervasive, bigger, stronger, and there are people that are left out. And AI will probably be the most vicious example of it. There will be individuals left out in the AI revolution, and the only way one will survive is if, we have to hope that economies will create different jobs. But it is a racket, right? AI benefits the corporates, it benefits employers, because they don't have to employ people. You can have an AI do the jobs that humans could do, and people will be left out. People will lose jobs. And on the other side, Keynes talks about, in his various essays, that unemployment has been an issue that we have faced since the dawn of time. Society progresses, advances happen, but there are people left out. So while we have progressed in our ability to consume, we have a million different ways to consume things, we have a million different ways to produce things, there are individuals who are left out. So even on the other side, it is a recognizable thing that yes, technological unemployment due to advances, for example, AI, it's a fact of the matter. And reason and application have always been the saving grace of man. It's very interesting how even now there seems to be an awareness. We all are very aware of the forces that try to control us, the forces that try to divide us, yet it's very difficult to break through, right? We don't want to lose out, and so we get exploited. And a question to ponder, why have governments done nothing, essentially, to protect us against AI? Recently, the EU did place some, at least an inquiry was done, some research was done, some parameters were put in place regarding AI and its effects upon jobs. However, it has not been pervasive enough. And the reason this happens, it is the racket. Governments and corporates form a nexus. AI benefits corporates invariably. To maintain the power of corporates, governments have to go along with it. Now, rackets are not social phenomenons. Everything is connected. It is not a one-off thing. Every single form of corporate government is affected by rackets, whether it is the small, as we talk about the global south, of course this happens. As someone who has resided in India for much of my life, of course that happens. And it is not, while we as humans may be polarized by race, gender, any other way we may define ourselves or we may present ourselves, rackets are not. So rackets, of course, benefit from the polarization because rackets are strong. They are a group of every single individual who may benefit together. Rackets seek to fight for the profits that they deprive us of. Yet we remain polarized by simple things, and we are unable to do much against the rackets. And can racket theory explain what is happening. So this is a function that I have developed, essentially function of technology's domination, seduction to symmetry, erosion of countervailing forces, and government acquiescence. This together allows us to have the racket. And of course, rackets get bigger, they get tighter, they get stronger, and the Venn diagram gets more connected. It may expand more in an initial sense when rackets are just developing. Obviously, now things have been progressing for so long. Perhaps if we look back to historically relevant examples of racket theory, it may not be as tight, but now the nexuses have gotten so tight that it's not survivable. So, of course, technology's domination over every aspect of our life leads then to a seduction to symmetry. We want to be the same. We want to be a part of the same cliques, same groups, same trends. And that propels us to consume, to participate. What do we have to do to participate? We have to consume. And governments acquiesce. Governments do nothing against what is happening, the way corporates are. Amazon is allowed to create Amazon cities that are essentially industrial, industrial towns that are focused on what it wants to do. Workers, they live and work and they die and work. So corporates are allowed a free reign. Governments do nothing. And the successes of racket theory. Again, I think a very that we all may be familiar with. Some of you may have watched the Oppenheimer movie. A very interesting thing that I took away from the movie, and of course you can know it if you just read it, you don't need the movie, but all the scientists were either heavily aligned with, participated in, or were openly, or not so openly, communist, socialist participants in leftist political movements. And yet they suffered for it. They provided their advancements in society, advancements in science to governments, and they helped progress humanity along, sometimes negatively. However, for it, they either got blacklisted, they suffered, and we saw one of the big things in the movie, Oppenheimer himself lost his security clearance. So it was a big testament. And nowadays, a similar thing happens. There may be very surface level leftist ideals within scientists, but it's not, you can only go a certain way. You're only allowed a certain amount. Concluding remarks. Cliques, gangs, established groups act protectively towards their members. So who is along with these members? Governments, corporates. And they act to protect each other's interest, which is to participate in the profits that they deprive us of. Rackets are essentially highly exclusionary, highly persecutory, highly, they exclude us. So rackets are, according to Adorno and Horkheimer, operationally comprised of your corporates, your governments. And as Adorno had once said, war as business is no longer an exaggeration. It is literally the case of it. So you have examples like Lockheed Martin. That's a little bit of an outdated example. Perhaps in the 90s, people became more aware of it. But it still exists today. I mean, wars get decided to happen. Wars happen because of the rackets therein. And one might also wonder, what can we do? What can we do about it? Well, a clear way moving forward would to become organized, to be strong. We have some flirtations with freedom. We have these strikes happening, WGA, Writers Guild. We have the Kaiser Permanente strikes happening. Another strike that's going to happen, perhaps next week, is Walgreens, a very large pharmaceutical company, not company, but store, their workers are going to begin striking en masse. So we have some flirtations with freedom, and those things need to become more widespread, because that is our only hope. As it is, the world has only become more polarized, it has only become more divided, and rackets love that, because rackets are a very tight nexus. And the only way out is through, and the only way through is together. And I just want to briefly mention that ODM, the one-dimensional man, right? So we have become that very one-dimensional man, correct? And what helps keep us that way? Well, rackets, they promote our polarization. Governments, you may say that there's actions happening in various governments to try to breach polarities, division, but it's not pervasive enough, and it's only furthering. We have not gone past. One of the ideas of capitalism is the creation of a monolithic society, and racket theory has utilized this. They've utilized seduction to symmetry to create this. Now, I have hope, ik heb hoffing, that we can break through this if we use what we have learned through society, historical contingency. We have seen that pervasive change has happened when we have been together, and we have seen that the only way to defeat the racket is to understand it. The only real racket that I think is very visible to society, and some people may understand that it is indeed a racket, is lobbyists, right? Lobbyists have a huge power to decide the way policy moves, decide the way government moves. So we have to understand that that is happening before us, and we have to bridge the gap of awareness, and we have to come together. So I leave with hope, and I also leave with any questions.